Right, I'm gonna say that we are live. A little more difficult. Oh, well, had the couch to fall. Well, the older you get, the farther the fall appears.
That's great. Let me see. Oh, very nice. Oh, yeah. You want that, right? That's great.
I didn't say thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
How old is she? 17 months. Working.
Miss Kemp.
I teach for my son. I teach for what's my teacher? She got the gray eyes, my wife got the blue eyes. Oh, yeah? That's your son? No, that's my nephew. Yeah. She's going to, so.
Take your shirt. Take your shirt. Got some other we are all days for that.
I could
It's almost 9 o'clock.
make one up like she is. Maybe and some right. I already got spots in my faces. Okay, go. I'm done.
Come on, I don't know what we're going to have. We're going to have something.
Is she here? Mr. Ryan? Who? The ice fish driver.
Oh. I know you better not so Brad.
I'm telling you. It's almost 9 o'clock. We've been here at 8:45. Let's see. Do you live in Rose of the Skin?
I do. Yep.
Where?
Kenneth Street.
It's sign right now. That's it. Oh, you got your pocket.
Alright, look, Mr. Robert and Mr.
Brooklyn Brace, you know, the old jewelry shop, the old place, like, and stuff.
Mr. Miller, right, they said they need you to drive.
Oh, okay. So you're not gonna get there. You're not gonna make it out of the parking lot here. Right, I can walk away home before.
We gotta get this thing pretty much started for you.
We got some, see how many.
On the right side.
Some went back to single top today.
Okay.
Well,
I got a deal here. I want to figure out. I want to call a quick roll here, see who's here. So Billy Johnson isn't here, right? Oh, you're Billy Johnson.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna stay as long as I can. I can't miss.
Yeah, we want you to. We want you to stay. Roderick Taylor is not here. Sergio Trevino, he's not here. Oh, there. And you put it. Sure, you're awesome, dude. Michael Houston.
He's not here.
Clifton Brooks.
He's not. He's
Cleveland Mark Cleveland.
He's in there with
Nicholas Strahan. Okay. Robert Freeman.
He's waiting on Roger, but I'm not going
Richard Frenzel.
He's gone to single top.
Terrence Isles.
right here.
Yeah.
Are we gonna
I ain't never going to forget who you are.
Are we gonna need our bond?
Kenneth Van Til.
We're gonna need our bond. Is this been?
He's gone to single top. You go grab it.
David Nunez.
Oh, no, just
Spin the top.
Yep.
Jason Wilson. Is that Jason?
Jason he's outside. I think interesting.
So who was the fella who just walked off?
That is Justin.
New guy.
We got him yesterday.
Justin, new guy. All right, so it's time. We are up, and I'm thinking we're up over at North. If we're not, y'all call us. What's this supposed to be?
A seal.
That's an angel or some kind of like that. We're still dealing with spiritual stuff this whole week. We're going to be looking at spiritual stuff. We're going to be looking at some different things. Excuse me. But we're gonna look at how that connects with spirituality. So we have our sign-in sheet going around. Thank you, ma'am. So make sure that you sign in at both places. Make sure you sign in here, and make sure you sign in at North, and make sure that I can read it. So if I can't read your signature, you don't get paid.
Don't get paid.
You won't get paid. You will want to get paid. So y'all sign your signature, but make sure that it's on there. Make sure you bring your books to class with you. Everybody have a book. Make sure that you have a book. If you are bookless, if you don't have a book, no one has ever given to you a book, then get with your counselor at some point today and tell them you need a book. If you have lost your book, shame upon you. But go and tell your counselor, I have lost my book. If you sold your book, or if someone stole your book, some of those things, if you've eaten your book, whatever, let her know, or let your counselor know that you no longer have a book, because it's a requirement that you have a book. No matter where you are in the book, turn over into it this morning to page 70. 770. And we're going to talk a little bitty bit about what we're looking at in our book on assignment 11. We're not going to stay there very long, but we're going to start out there pretty quickly this morning and get beyond that. So we looked at yesterday the first bullet under assignment 11 says balancing recovery, family, and work. Can you see how trying to balance your family, your recovery, and your work life could need some spiritual connotation to it? Here's the deal. When I'm trying to put all of that stuff together, I may need to have some prayer time, have some contemplation time, have some meditation time. I may need to do something to help me get through some of that stuff, because we all know that family can cause stress, right? I don't know your family, but my family can cause stress. And I'm assuming your family can do the same thing. Me in my addiction, guess what? I cause a lot of stress in my family, right? And I'm going to tell you, like I said again, I don't know your family, but I'd almost bet you did too. Do you have a book? You do have a book. Okay. I didn't see it. So here's the deal. We need to understand that there's going to be stress and tension and all of that kind of stuff in there. So one of the things at this point we need to be looking at is how to reduce potential family tension and conflicts in our early recovery. Sometimes when I just gotten into recovery, when I'm trying to get all of these things lined out, I'm trying to get all these things smoothed over, I'm trying to make everything work the way that I know that it's supposed to work, it's going to cause some tension in my family. I remember when I got sober the first time, and I had the opportunity to go back and tell my family, look, I'm sober. All of this stuff, that guy you knew before, he doesn't even exist anymore, and things are going to be different going forward. Guess what? They didn't believe me. They didn't take me at face value. They didn't say, okay, you're a changed individual. They didn't, they just didn't, because they knew me. They knew what I had done before. I had quit drinking before. It wasn't the first time. It was the first time I had gone through something and made a determination that I wasn't going to do it again. But my family, there was still tension in my family when I went back. So, when I told my brother, I'm done. I'm not going to use anymore. What do you think he said? Just about. I will never forget. Looked me right in the eye and said, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. He and I started drinking when I was 8 and he was 5 when we started drinking. So he's looking at me. He's still in the midst of his addiction. Had already had something to drink that day. You could smell it on his breath. And I was brand new in recovery, and I wanted whatever he had just drank. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, okay. I had intended to stay there. I didn't stay there, but I had intended to. But he said, "No, yeah, right. That's going to happen. I'm sure that that's going to be exactly right." So we need to work toward reducing potential. Why does it say potential? Because it may not happen in your life, right? You may not have the same issues, and I'm almost going to guarantee you that you're not going to have the same issues that I have. And there are outliers, people who will not have any issues. They're going to go out there and they're not going to have any issues at all. They're not going to have any problems at all. But that's not usually you and I. And we're going to have some issues. So we need to look at those potential things. We need to understand that when I get out of here, when I go back to my family, if indeed that's where I go, there may be some issues. Right? There's going to be some expectations, and some of those expectations I'm not going to be able to meet. Right? So it's going to be hard. So we need to know that there's going to be some potential difficulties out there, some family tension, and some conflicts may arise in our early recovery. So if there's going to be some tension out there, and if there's going to be some conflicts in our early recovery, how are we going to deal with that?
I'll say the sponsor.
Say it again.
I'll do a sponsor.
I still didn't.
Talking to your sponsor.
Oh yeah, talking to, because I was looking at the wrong person. Yeah, you need to have a sponsor that you can talk to, right? You need to have some sober people that you can talk to. If you know there's going to be issues in your family, what else might you do?
Yes, please, being present.
Well, I like the way you said that. He said de-escalate it by not being present.
So that's the situation.
Yeah, you might need to look at that family situation and see if you need to be a part of that. You're always going to be a part of that family. You can't help that. You're going to be a part of that family, but you don't have to be a part of that family. You know what I mean? Right. You don't have to be part of that situation. Sometimes you may need to say, okay, they are part of my old people, places, and things that I need to avoid. Sometimes we need to avoid those people that are connected to us by blood. So if I know that there's a potential problem there, what is the potential problem? What do you think the potential problem is? What's the real problem? Well, they may not trust us, right? They may not trust us. They may not want us back at their house. They may not want to support us. All of those things. But that's not the real problem. What's the real problem? Him? He's the real problem? What did you say? Relapse? That's the real problem, is relapse. You're going to come to group, sir? You coming to group or you leaving? Okay. All right. So here's the deal. That's the real problem. You know, they may not trust us anymore. They may not like us anymore. They may not want to give us money. They may not want us to sleep on their couch. They may not want any of those things. Those things that they don't want may lead us back to our drug of choice. So that's the real issue, right? And when we get in here, we get what we need to get ourselves back to a place where we're sober and sane and doing the things that we know we need to do to stay sane and to stay sober. And if we know that going back to our family is going to endanger that, we may need to make some other plans. So who else am I going to be able to talk to? We said we're going to call our sponsor. We're going to maybe some sober support system. You know, there's a ton of people out there that are not drinking, and they can be your sober support system. Doesn't necessarily have to be a sponsor, right? Your preacher, your pastor, just somebody, your second cousin on your mother's side, 4 times removed. You know, whatever. As long as they're sober and sane. Now, when we say sane, what does that mean? Yeah, they're not crazy. They're not in this lifestyle. You know, I know a lot of people out there that are in the lifestyle that I used to be in. I can't go back around those people because that's insanity. That's insane. Knowing that if you put this in your body, it's going to do this to you. It's going to destroy your family, destroy your job, destroy your home life, destroy your health, destroy your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, destroy everything in your life. But we do it anyway. That's insane. It's insane. Look, y'all don't get offended, but it's just like smoking. We know that it's going to do all these horrible, terrible things, but the addiction is so strong. And when we go on break here in a few minutes, we're going to go right out there and we're going to do all that again. That's insanity. That's insane. So we're going to have a lot of about time. Not right now. You're pretty lucid. Everybody's in pretty good shape right now. But as we get closer to that time for break, you become more and more insane. So by the time it's break time, there's a bunch of insane people running outside, headed out the door. So who's the other person? Who's the other person that we can get in contact with? We talked about our sponsor. We talked about some other sober people. Who else?
The counselor.
Your counselor?
Therapist.
What did you say? Counselors and therapists, yeah, you know, if you've got $150 an hour, you can come see me. I'll meet with you for $150 an hour, and believe me, it's worth it. You get free coffee, you know, stuff like that. It's worth it, you know. So, but there's and who did you say?
I think my mother and father, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Members of the NA.
Yeah, all of those people, members of your AA group, they can be your sober support system, your mom and dad, if they're sober. Yeah, anybody that's not doing drugs. The last person I would go to would be mom and dad. As a matter of fact, I had to leave Mississippi, come to Texas to get away from mom and dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dad was a stone cold alcoholic. Mom was a practicing witch, and she was also an alcoholic. So you don't want to go. Hey, I need some help. I'm having some struggles with my addiction. Is that right? Yeah, they ain't gonna help you. So you got to know sometimes your family is the worst place in the world that you can go. And I get people people get a little upset with me and say, well, you can't tell me not to go back around my mama. No, I can't. But I'm going to tell you, if you do, you don't. You might tell your counselor to hold your bed, because if that person's still in their active addiction, it's going to trap you. It's wanting to get you. What did we say about it? It is baffling and cunning, and it's going to sneak up behind you and whop you behind the head. All of that. Here's the one that I would look. We're talking about spirituality. This week is about spirituality. So, God, yes, we could do that. Yeah. Yeah, we could pray. We could lift up the Lord Jesus. We could talk to God. We could talk to our higher power. What if your higher power is the doorknob? Well, here's the deal, brother. If you were to talk to the doorknob, and if you're talking to the doorknob helps you stay sane, talk to the doorknob, right? Now, people may think you're insane when you're talking to the doorknob, but if that's what's keeping you in your recovery, then it's helping you to stay sane, right? So go talk to the doorknob, right? Pick you a nice one. Big one, in big old crystal ones or something. Get you a nice one and do that. So yeah, we can talk to our higher power, whoever our higher power happens to be. Yes, sir.
Me personally, I can't have a crystal doorknob.
Can't have no crystal doorknob because it reminds you of something else, crystal. Yeah, okay. All right, so you got to have a wooden doorknob or one of these over here. So. Okay. So we finally got around to what we wanted to get around to, and I want to go over a few other things on spirituality this morning because we're going to be on it all this week, and we talked yesterday about some of the types of spiritual practices that we can do, and we talked about the fact that spirituality is not necessary in church. That's fine. It's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to go to church to find spirituality, but you can find spirituality in church, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that's where they find their spiritual connection. I find spiritual connection everywhere. Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. What does that mean? You can't just go around praying all the time, can you?
You can.
Well, you can. I mean, I pray about everything. I pray about this group in the morning. I pray, I have to. I got to get all prayed up and stuff like that because, there's things that used to, back in my younger days, would bother the snot out of me. That doesn't anymore. So for the sake or for the benefit of the guys over at North, look, I was looking at the thing there. You can't really see this, but this is an angelic being, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that what that looks like? This is an angel looking for. It's got wings and everything. Looks good, huh? What is these things here?
Birds.
Birds? Okay. What kind of birds? What kind? Eagles. He said they're eagles. What else? What do you think?
Pterodactyl.
A pterodactyl. You see where his mind is. It's his mind. And it ain't never got back, So a pterodactyl, the man said. That's even hard to say. No, come on, y'all. You're just not using the gray matter that God blessed you with.
That's a chicken.
That's a chicken. That's a chicken. See, one said it's an eagle, a pterodactyl, or a chicken. Yeah. Chickens don't usually fly that high. All right, I'm going to share this with you. You ought to be able to tell exactly what kind of birds those are by the fact that I'm a really good artist and I drew those birds and all that stuff. And you're sitting there in that chair and telling me you can't tell me what kind of bird that is.
It's a red jay and a blue jay.
Well, that's close. It's a red bird, right? That's a red bird. Y'all seen red birds? They fly around. And that's a blue bird, right? See what drugs will do to you? You look at an obviously blue bird and you can't tell it's a blue bird. So, all right. Well, yesterday we talked a little bit about meditation. Is meditation okay? Or is meditation some type of new age crazy religion?
It's okay.
Is it okay? Why is it okay?
Because then give you a chance to think about situations.
Because when you meditate, you ponder about something.
When you were listening. Yeah, when you meditate, you ponder something. What does ponder mean? To think deeply about a thing. Ponder upon it. You think deeply about that situation. But the Bible says to meditate on the Word of God. Pick out a scripture and just go and ponder that scripture. Think about it. Think about what's going on, or think about your recovery. Think about what you're going to do. You need to have a plan when you get out of here. You don't need to get out of here and be surprised. Right? Say it again.
I said, in the same position you came in.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to be in the same position you came in with. I have had people get picked up at the facility, and the people picking them up were hiring a kite. So what are you going to do? You don't have any other ride. What are you going to do? I'm going to walk somewhere. I'm not going to get in the car with those guys. So that's meditation. And we talked about the fact that meditation is going to do a lot of good things to you health-wise. Lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate, improves your blood circulation, decreases anxiety in your life, increasing feelings of well-being, and takes stress out of your life, or at least lowers the stress level that's in your life. So that's a good thing. That's what meditation does. So the second thing that we can do to practice some spirituality is gratitude. Have you ever thought of gratitude as a spiritual thing?
Man, grateful.
I'm grateful that, you make me grateful. You woke up. That makes me grateful. I appreciate it. But as people in recovery, we need to be practicing gratitude. What am I grateful for?
Right.
Grateful for life. Yeah, some of them, I don't know who it was, but some of us talked this morning. A couple of us talked this morning about the fact that we're alive today is enough for gratitude. That was you and I. Just being here and being alive. There's things that I've gone through. I shouldn't be alive today. I got some of the scars to show them, but I should not have made it through that. So gratitude, look, I'm sober. I'm real grateful. I'm real grateful for that. Y'all know what I did last night?
Ate some donuts.
Ate some donuts? No, I did not. I did not. But you know what I did last night? Nobody, none of y'all know what I did last night. But I'm going to tell you something. No, I didn't go to church on Monday night. I went on Sunday. But I want to tell you something. I'm grateful that I know what I did last night. And you don't know what I did last night, but I do. I know exactly what I did last night. There was a time when I didn't. When you could tell me, man, you know what you did last night? No. I had to rely on other people to tell me what I did last night. But I'm not like that anymore. So I'm grateful to God, and I'm grateful to people who helped me. I'm grateful to my wife for real. We've been married for 52 years, and that girl stayed with me even in the worst of times. But I will tell you this, she was really succinct in telling me what I did last night. She was glad to help me. So it's a spiritual thing for us to practice gratitude. We need to take a look and see where we are and why we are where we are, and be grateful to God that we are where we are. There was a guy, now he's not here anymore, but y'all remember the guy that complained so much about the food? Were you here when he was here?
Yeah.
Just every second of every group. Man, that's so steak. The food just ain't no good. The food, well, where were you living in? Oh, well, I was homeless. Okay, I was homeless. I'd eaten out of garbage cans, but the food here ain't much better. You know, just but not a whole lot of gratitude, right? So practicing gratitude can be one of the ways that we practice being um, spiritual. Now, here's the deal. Our stuff says that practicing gratitude is simple. You think that's true? It should be. If you look at what's going on in your life and you look at what has happened in the past, then you should get to a place where you understand that, hey, I'm just grateful for all of this stuff. You know, I'm grateful for what God has done at this point in my life. I'm grateful for any little bitty thing, whatever. You know, I go around and I find a penny on the ground. Y'all pick pennies up?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for God giving me a penny. I said, okay, that's a little tiny itty bitty gift from God. Sometimes I get out of the car. I was walking around where I used to have my office, and there was a big old sign there, and right at the bottom of the sign there was a stack of change. There was quarters and nickels, and it's like $1.86. Man, and you know, people were walking past that. And all right, then. You know, I'm grateful for the fact that they walked past it and I didn't. that went up, got in my car. And so, anyway, practicing gratitude ought not be a hard thing for us to do. Really not. It really shouldn't be hard. Because when I look into my life, what have you got to be grateful for? Yeah, I'm alive. I've got food. I've got group that I can go to. I've got coffee I can drink all day long. I've got all kinds of friends in here. I've got counselors who really care for me. I've got Miss Rebecca who will keep me straight. You know, all of that kind of stuff. So all of those things I need to be grateful for. So it should be simple. It just means taking the time to feel thankful for positive experiences in your life. And those positive experiences don't need to be huge. They can either big ones or small ones. I was grateful yesterday. Sunday, one of the things we did yesterday was my youngest son's birthday. And we went to J.C. Penney's to try to find him a shirt. Now, let me tell you, my youngest son is not a small guy. He makes all of you guys look little. He's about 6'3", but he weighs about 500 pounds. I mean, he's huge. Oh. And so finding him clothes is not easy. His shirts are 5X. So we went, from church. We ran over and said, okay, let's see if we can find him a shirt. In that whole store, we found one. And I said, that's the one we need. That's it. So we gave it to him yesterday. He put it on, fit him great, and so I was grateful for that. Just thank God for that. We could find a little shirt and all of that kind of stuff. And then my daughter-in-law sent me pictures of my granddaughter, who she had a birthday. Guess when her birthday was? On the 20th. I missed it. I forgot it. And so, my daughter-in-law sent me her picture when she's at her birthday. And I said, hey, I couldn't even believe that girl's 6 years old already. And she said it back. She said, I told her what you said. And she said, Grandpa, I ain't 6. I'm 5. So I'm thinking, okay, at least, when my youngest son is 48 yesterday. That'd make you feel a little older than, okay. So even the big things, the big things are fantastic. They're wonderful. They're great. But even the small things you ought to be grateful for, right? And people say, well, that's the goofiest thing. You find a nickel and yes, I'm grateful for a nickel. What do I do with all that change? I find a lot of change. God just leaves, I'm looking for, I find it. I put it in the little cup holder. And, when you feel like there's someone, I don't give people money usually, but when there's someone I feel like that I should, look, If you're on the side of the street and you don't have anything, do you know a handful of change is a good thing? Yeah. And sometimes I take that handful of change and put it in the offering plate at church. And that's good. That's good ground to go into. So grateful for small things. I filled my coffee cup up over at North today because they make better coffee. They do. And am I grateful? Have y'all gone to get a cup of coffee from McDonald's? You go over here to McDonald's, get a cup of coffee, it's about $3. It's Tucson. I learned, and that's for a large cup of coffee. I learned the other day, since I'm over 65, there are some good perks. If you're over 65, you can get a medium cup of coffee at McDonald's for 75 cents. Oh. Yeah, so okay. They ought to give you coffee. I mean, you live that long, they ought to give you coffee. But I can get free coffee from North Point, and it tastes good. I can get free coffee from here too. You just have to strain it through something so it doesn't eat your esophagus out when you're. But it's free. It's free. And we have a salad bar. I remember when they put that salad bar in. It wasn't but like a couple of months ago. They stuck that salad bar in there, and I went and looked in that thing, and guess what? There's stuff in there. Right? And it's not bad stuff. I'm grateful for that. Usually, I'm going to go back to North Point to have my lunch and to do my notes and everything because I have a desk over there that I can work off of and everything. But in their salad bar, they have peaches. Oh. Yeah, and I'm grateful to get those peaches. Now, the peaches are frozen. And you pull the peach out, you heat your food up in the microwave, then you pull a frozen peach out and you drop it in the middle of everything, and so they just kind of fight together, but still, it's a frozen peach, but it's still a peach. And, praise God for it. So I'm grateful for even those things. While expressing gratitude is a part of a whole lot of religious and spiritual traditions, so you can find that there. When we go to church, we're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be grateful for what God did in our life. I'm going to tell you, if it wasn't for God Almighty, there's no telling where I would be. I was a bad guy, bad person. So, no telling what would have happened. But that's in there a lot. The process can be incorporated into any belief system. I can be somebody who doesn't even believe in God, doesn't have to have anything to do with church, don't have anything to do with any type of religion, but I can still be grateful, right? Even if you hate God and you hate religious people and you hate Christians, you can still be grateful. So while we're in recovery, that's one of the biggest spiritual things that we should have going on. I need to be grateful for my recovery. Right? So, it says, look, I can still practice that. It doesn't have to be an elaborate, time-consuming thing either. Simply setting aside a few minutes every day to write in a gratitude journal. Now that to me sounds like that might take a little bitty minute, right? If you've got a journal and you have a specific gratitude journal, but look, if I'm really grateful, is that too much to ask? No, that's not too much to ask. Years ago, God told me to read the Bible. So every day, every morning, I get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get to do it this morning, but I will tonight. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I read a chapter out of the Old Testament and a chapter out of the New Testament. That's one way that I show gratitude to God. So it's a small thing to have me read a couple of chapters out of the Bible. It's a small thing for me to take a journal and just write in there, this is what I'm grateful for today. But it's doing something. It's showing that I have some gratitude. The other thing is this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to write it out in a journal or anything like that. I can just be verbally grateful. Well, one of the things that we can do is just tell people what we're grateful for. We're not used to doing that, are we? We may actually feel gratitude in our hearts, and I feel like I'm grateful for what God has done for me, and I feel like I'm grateful for what all of the people around me have done for me and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not usually used to telling people, coming up and telling somebody, guess what I'm grateful for today. I know Miss Kim with her class in the morning in here, y'all talk a little bit about stuff like that, right?
Yes.
What am I grateful for today? And we need to be doing that. Don't shoot at me. Do not shoot at me. Don't shoot. A man is shooting. I will tell you, I've been doing groups over at North Point for, the last, ain't nobody ever shot at me. Man, he's shooting at me. Man. So we can verbally reflect on just what made you feel grateful. And I will tell you that sometimes it's all you need. That is a spiritual thing. Remember yesterday we talked about when we have something that's significant in our lives or something that is sacred in our lives, then that is part of being spiritual. That is a spiritual connection. So gratitude is something that's significant. One of the things, let me share this with you. One of the things that gratitude does for us is keep us sober. If I can get to the place where I know that I have to be grateful to Almighty God for what He's done for me, then when the temptation comes back for me to get back in the mess that I was in, then I can turn away from that. I don't really have the right to do that if I'm grateful to God for taking me out of that. Look, if it was Almighty God, or if it was my group at AA, or if it was my counselor, or whatever it was, or whoever it was, that helped me slip out of that situation, then it's kind of really nasty for me to go back into that situation. Because if I do, I wasn't really grateful, was it? I wasn't really thankful. I was just, telling stories to myself and maybe telling stories to other people. So here's some things. Gratitude practices can also be extended to the people around you in the form of appreciative letters, cards, gestures. How many times do you tell your counselor you appreciate her?
I told mine today.
You do you? Okay. Mr. Giles tells his all the time, and that's a good thing. We need to. These guys are working and they're trying to help and they're doing all that. How many people just really love on Miss Kim and tell her how much you appreciate the fact that she's around, she's in the way, she's disrupts the group. All of those things. We need to be showing gratitude to the people who are doing stuff that's going to help me stay in my recovery. I want to tell you, I think you ought to, and I'm pretty sure you do, but I think we ought to be letting the cook guy know how grateful we are. That guy's just not somebody that throws a piece of bologna on the bread, is he? He does some pretty good stuff in it. Yeah. He was in there the other day. He had a whole bunch of these big old knobby-looking carrots. I said, okay, them things, I like carrots, but those things look kind of nasty, big old knobby looking. He said, oh, no, I'm going to clean those up. I'm going to make some glazed carrots. So, okay.
Some of them frosted,
yeah.
The top of it, it's so so good.
Oh, yeah. So he knows what he's doing in there, so we need to be grateful to it. One of the other people, look, everybody here, we ought to be grateful to Mr. Farmer. He came up with all of this. This is a different type of place, and he came up with all of that to recover and all of that kind of stuff. He came up with all of that stuff. We ought to be letting him know, man, we appreciate you. The boss man. Mr. Farmer. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, I know. I was at the prison for 16 and a half years. We always use a person's surname because that is respectful.
Yeah.
And those guys haven't had a lot of respect in their life, so we're having to do it. Yeah. So that's what we do. But and that kind of stuff, I was there 16 and a half years, so that sticks with me. And I've had people say, call me Dennis. Okay, Mr. Farr. I have a hard time doing that. I'm in the military too, and there's same situation there. So here's the deal. We ought to be. How about Miss Rebecca? Sometimes she gets in our faces a little bit, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes she's a little hard on us, but sometimes it's harder to be grateful to somebody who'll get in your face like that. But I'm going to tell you, why do you think that is? One of the things that we're trying to do here is get us to a place where we have our lives in line. And when we get out of here, I need to be able to keep myself where myself's supposed to be. And she's the one who's helping us stay. This is where you need to be. We need to be able to look. When I was in my addiction, I didn't take care of my house. I didn't take care of my car. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't take care of any of that stuff. So while I'm here, I'm learning again how to take care of all those things. And we have someone here that's helping us. Look, you're a little bit out of line there, Bubblehead. You need to move back over here. Get in your lane. And that helps. Because when I'm out there, there's going to be people saying, hey, you come over here with us. And we need to be at a place where we don't want to get over there because we want to keep ourselves lined out. So, whether it's a new promotion at work, a surprise piece of cake. How many people want a surprise piece of cake? I don't mind somebody surprising me with a piece of cake, but I don't want to have a surprise when I'm eating the cake. Yeah, I don't want to find anything in there like a mouse. I don't want one of those kind of surprises. Don't want to do that. So look, taking time to feel grateful for the good in your life can bring both mental and physical benefits. We talked about how meditation brings mental and physical benefits, right? We talked about that yesterday. But how does gratitude bring mental and physical benefits? These show regular studies have shown, and we talked about meta-analysis yesterday. That means a lot of studies. So there's been a lot of studies that have shown how regular gratitude practice. Now, let me share this with you. If you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm really grateful that this group's about over, right? That's not practicing gratitude. You're grateful. And when we go on break, you'll be grateful. And when we end the group this morning, you'll be grateful. But that's not practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude means if I'm grateful, I do something about it. So after the group, if you would come up and say, hey, Dr. Gardner, I'm really glad. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for ending the group on time. See, that's practicing gratitude. I'm doing something about the fact that I'm grateful. I'm writing it in a journal. I'm sharing it with someone else. When my folks come to visit and stuff like that, I'm telling them, hey, you know what? Man, food here is great. I'm just really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for this. And I'm grateful for you guys coming to visit me and all of these kinds of stuff. We need to practice it, right? So if we really actually practice gratitude, it's going to do some things. It increases our positive emotions. What's a positive emotion? I feel good. What was it?
Feeling good.
Just feeling good. Gratitude is a positive emotion. I'm thankful. Those are so practicing gratitude is going to bring more of those out so you can feel them. It's going to improve your sleep. How's that work? If I practice gratitude, if I'm grateful for the things that I have in my life, then that's going to lower the stress level. And 90% of people who have issues with sleeping have stress in their life. Some type of weird stress that they can't can't deal with. But if they get real, if they're grateful and they practice gratitude, it'll help bring that down, which will help me sleep. So it also enhances empathy. What is empathy?
When you feel
Well, I can feel your pain. I can feel your need to do these things. So I'm empathetic. So it can contribute to a quality friendship and relationship. If people know you're grateful for the things that they're doing for you, they're more likely to be a better friend, right? If I'm grateful for what you're doing for me, then maybe I want to do a little bit more. Maybe I want to help a little bit more. So, it can also bolster physical health. If I'm grateful, how's it going to bolster physical health? How's it going to make my physical health a little better? It's going to bring down the stress level. And what does stress do? Stress can cause strokes. Stress can cause heart attacks. Stress can cause anxiety. Stress can cause depression, high blood pressure, all kind of coronary goofy stuff. It actually thickens up your blood vessels, and as they thicken, they become kind of brittle, and they can have all sorts of aneurysms and stuff like that happen. So it does some good with those things. So we need to be grateful. And sometimes we may not know that we have all that to be grateful for, but we do. If you take a look, you have a lot to be grateful. So how about devotional activities? This is another way that I can be spiritual or use spirituality in my life, is just to have a devotional. What is it? What is a devotion? Just what it sounds like. Taking a few minutes to devote my time to my higher power. If my higher power is the doorknob, what am I going to do? I'm going to, what was it? Talk to the doorknob. I'm going to go polish the doorknob. I'm going to be devoted to the doorknob. I'm going to polish the doorknob. I'm going to make sure the doorknob works well. You remember not too long ago that doorknob didn't work. The lock in it wouldn't work at all. So what did we do? We talked to Brother Jay there, had him come fix the doorknob. Because if somebody's gonna have the doorknob as their higher power, at least it needs to be lockable, right? Needs to be a good one. We don't want to have something that's not good. So we need to set some time aside. A devotional is going to cost me something. If nothing else, it's going to cost me a few minutes of my time, right? So we can do devotion and have some devotional activity. Devotionals are any practice. Hear that. Devotionals are any practice that helps connect individuals to a higher power or feeling or transcendence, something outside of ourselves. So, for those who are religious, somebody who is really, they ascribe to a particular religion, that could mean regularly going to a place of worship. We're going to be at our place of worship this Sunday. We're going to have a Friends and Family Day this Sunday. So, we're going to bring pizza or something, and we're going to edit it. So that's one of those devotional activities. We're going to be there reading pages out of your holy book. Our holy book is the Bible, so we read out of that. Yours may be something different, so you can read out of that. Take some time. Like I told you guys, I read 2 chapters a day. I've read the Bible all the way through, and I'm going to do it again, reading 2 chapters a day. it still takes a long time to read. There's 66 books in it, and some of them are very, very long. Some of them are very short. And some of them, like Isaiah, things like that, they're very long. So it takes a while to get that done. Repeating mantras, singing sacred songs. We used to have this lady that came to our church and would sing some sacred songs, but she just quit coming. So we don't know what happened. She's probably not, she's probably going to hell. I don't know. or praying. We just talked about earlier about praying to our higher power. I do that, when I take off in the morning. I live a pretty good little ride from here, so I have a commute, and I pray 25, 30 minutes every morning. I'm going to pray on the way back. I usually pray. I drive back and forth between the facilities. I pray on the way back and forth between the facilities. I don't have to pray the whole time I'm driving back and forth, but I do start off my little trip by praying. Praying to a higher power. For other people, devotionals may consist of activities like traditionally seen as secular things, but they're not. What does secular mean? Worldly things, not necessarily religious things, like listening to music. Y'all like listening to music? I've heard some of the stuff y'all listen to. That ain't music. But you listen to something. But it ain't music. But that could be a way to have a devotional listening to music. My wife listens to praise and worship music constantly, all of the time. And so if I'm in her truck with her, I have to listen to that too. I love praise and worship music, but not as much as you do. Spending time outside. I do like spending time outside. My wife and I are going to go in October. We're going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So we have a trailer, an RV, and we're going to pull that thing all the way to Alabama and stay in state parks. And state parks are just beautiful. You stay outside, and all of them have a lake or a river or something, and it's just a really nice place to be in. And you can become really spiritually in tune when you're in a state park or out in the woods somewhere. Contemplating a piece of art. I like art. We have in our home, we have art all over the walls in our house. We used to have a friend, still have the friend, but he used to have an auction, and he auctioned off all kinds of stuff. And we go there, and we have some paintings that are by some pretty important artists, and they have a little thing on them that's guaranteed authenticity and all of that stuff. And they look like they should cost a whole lot of money and all of that stuff. But if you get them at an auction, you get $20,000 painting for $4. So we have that up there, and I like looking at those things from time to time, and it's some fun. While some devotional activities require that you travel to a specific place, if you're going to go to the park, if you're going to go somewhere else, go to a waterfall or something like that, you've got to go to a place. But most of it can be done in your own home or in your own neighborhood or where you are right away, where you are right now. You can have a devotional just kind of within yourself. Just when you're talking to your higher power, that is a devotional. So what do devotionals do for you? Devotional practices offer us a multitude of benefits. Prayer elicits the body's relaxation response. It calms the body and mind while invoking feelings of gratitude, hope, and comfort. Regularly attending religious services may actually increase your lifespan. People who go to church regularly usually live longer than people who don't. There's a lot of reasons for that. First off, they're connected to their higher power. Secondly, usually when somebody's going to church a lot, there are things that they don't do, like smoke and drink. And of course, there are people who go to church who smoke and drink and do all those things too. So regular attending church, though, will increase your lifespan. Spending time outside has several physical and mental benefits. It lowers your stress level, reduces inflammation, improves your concentration, boosts creativity, and even gives you a stronger immune system. Because when you're out in the woods or out in the state park or something, when you're breathing in stuff like some of the pine trees and stuff put off some stuff, and you're breathing that in, and it will build your immune system and make you stronger against diseases and stuff like that. Isn't that neat? Y'all know what a park host is? That's a really good job. You can become a park host if you've got your own trailer. They will allow you to set it in the park for free. You get a nice place to set it in the park. You have to work for 20 hours a week, and you get paid for the work that you're doing, and you get to live in the park for free. So a lot of the times when we go, every park has a park host, and a lot of the times when we go to the park and we hook it up, we'll go to find the park host and see where they are. They tell you whatever good things going on. They can tell you what bad things going on. Don't go down that trail because there's an alligator lives down there, stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. So lowers the stress. Listening to music can decrease stress, improve moods, lower levels of anxiety, and increase relaxation. Of course, the type of music, the tempo of the music, all of that makes a difference when you're listening to music. If you're going to listen to uh, some real high intensity music, that's not really probably going to bring you to a place where you are in relaxation mode. Well, it probably not. Maybe it may want you want to dance or something like that, but it's not going to help you do all of those other things. We have a couple of other things here we need to go over, and we're going to do that right after we come back from break. Does anybody have any comments, questions, comments, snide remarks? Yes, sir.
Yeah, they changed my medicine, man. Got me blood pressure now. Even stronger dose.
Okay. So,
Coffee ain't doing
yeah, so they gave you some medicine to help you become spiritual. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes good. And I will say probably so because you're not the one who usually dozes off on me. You know, so probably that's something that's going on. May cause drowsiness. So what should you do?
Try to lower the dose.
You don't do that. You're not the doctor. You talk to the doctor about that. But what you should do on there where it says may cause drowsiness, don't read that. just don't read all that stuff. You know, you'll be all right.
They read it too.
Say it again.
They read it too.
Yeah. Well, then don't listen. Don't listen. All right, we're going to go ahead and take our break. We'll get back in about 15 after, and we'll finish this up for today. Thank you, folks.
say no today. Alright. Justin, I need you to do me a favor. Well, it takes me a favor. Great. For your appointment for school club, she needs you to fill out the password please. And use your name, date, where you're going, what you have, and then as far as the first date time and return time, but like where you're going, and then like that, and I'll give it that stuff, and I'll give it to Miss Sheree to yes. What time is it? Oh. So, My God, more than 20 years. And it's easy because they're less zero, 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 one.
Oh,
You always got to all around. Plus, you know, what's outside there.
Oh, so sleepy.
There you go. There you go. I was just thinking about it.
And just wonder. Okay, simple. King, baby. Simple.
King, baby. Alright.
Selfish. What's the story there? She goes, I need these all things. So what? I want to. She told me that took a place of just going to watch. So she had like, I said, why? Over. Yeah. Started. So I'm not just other question. So realize I have an opportunity. I know that it was not there. Before.
We still have 2 hours, 2 before we.
That's true. I'm going to get it. All the time. I'll have it. It's crazy.
All right. Time to resume. All righty then. Time to get started again. I'm hoping that everybody at North Point is back in their seats and prepared for the rest of the class. There's just a couple of more things I want to share with you. Excuse me, I get all choked up over this stuff. One of the things that we don't look at as being spiritual in connotation a lot of the times is journaling. It's often an overlooked practice. We don't do it like we ought to be doing. But journaling can be the best way, or one of the best ways, to experience spirituality and to bring some of the ideas of and the meaning out of our experiences. When you journal things, when you're thinking about what went on that day and you can put that down into a journal, you can look and see what you're grateful for and all of those kinds of things, and it helps you in your spiritual practice. Setting aside time every day to contemplate the daily events that can help you reconnect or connect with your inner life. Well, a lot of us haven't done that, and get you to a place where you better understand your own thoughts and your feelings. Remain mindful throughout the day. It can make it easier for you to sympathize with the other people because you're putting down your experiences and you can see that they have experiences that are similar. Instead of taking to heart the small ways others hurt you, you can journalizing gives you the space to consider the greater context of their motivations. Instead of somebody says something or does something that hurts your feelings, instead of allowing that to bring you to a place where you're just totally messed up because of it, you can greater understand how they might have been motivated to say that or to do that. And that makes it easier to empathize with the root of their problems, the root of their actions, why they did what they were doing. And this way, then journaling helps us to treat ourselves and others and the world a little gentler. So, and it's a good thing to be able to treat the rest of the world a little bit gentler. So taking a few minutes every day to write about your experiences can also help you in a whole bunch of other ways. It can help you make sense of difficult experiences. If you write something down, you can take a better, closer look at it and maybe understand what's going on in that situation a little bit better. Because you get, as you're writing it down, it kind of forces you to take stock of whatever's going on. So that's what we need to do. It helps you to manage anxiety. You have to slow down. You have to take a moment. You have to focus yourself just a little bit more in order to write down the things that are an issue for you or the things that might become an issue for you. And as you write them down, as you take that moment, as you become a little bit better focused, then it's going to lower that anxiety level, lower the stress level in your life, and just help you to feel better. When I'm going to go in here after a while, sit down about while I'm all choked up. I'm going to write that down. So look, it helps you to cope with mental health issues, getting it down again, and that's all because of the fact that it helps you to focus on what's going on in your life. It helps you to deal with stuff like depression. Why am I depressed? If I write it all down, if I get it all down there, it helps me get to the place where I can understand my anxiety level, understand my issues with depression. And if I can get that all written out and taken care of, then I can more clearly take a look at what's going on. Post-traumatic It can help with post-traumatic stress disorder. If you put it down on paper, you can more readily see what's going on in your life, and it helps you once you get it out. It helps you to live with it. I've dealt with a whole lot of PTSD, and as people can tell it to their counselor, or as people can write it on a piece of paper and tell it to themselves, it helps them to work through that trauma. It reduces stress. That noise that just quit, was that the air conditioner stopping? That just lowered the stress level in my life, right? The noise went away, and it's cold enough in here now to hang meat. So, that'll work. So it helps you to prioritize problems. If you sit down and you say, okay, I've got a list of problems. How many people have more than one problem? I've got more than one problem. So I don't always know which problem is causing me the most issues. I don't always know which problem is the number one problem and which problem is the number two problem. But when I sit down and I began to write about those issues, I began to write about those problems, almost naturally, the number one will come out first. That one that bothers me the most, that one that's causing me the most issues, is going to be the very first one that I'm going to notice. It's going to come up, and I'm going to write that thing down, right? So we need to do that. And once we begin to write down our problems, when the number one comes up, we've got that one written down, then we'll be able to delineate the rest of them, which one's number two, which one's number three. And as we write them out, look, some of the time, I've done that actually, and some of the time when you write out your problem, a solution will present itself because you are focused on that. Usually when we have an issue, it causes our mind to become defocused because your body's trying to protect yourself from the stress of that issue. And so your mind becomes disfocused and you're running all over the place and looking at all sorts of things. But when you sit down, write it down, and you can actually focus on the issue itself, suddenly you've got it figured out. This is what I have to do. And so it's a really good thing. And you can see how that would lower stress and do all of those things. So prioritize your problems. Prioritize your fears. Put down your concerns. What's going on with me? Why am I anxious about this? I'm anxious about this is what I am anxious about. This is what is causing me some issues. And so that kind of helps me to get through that, and helps me also to get in touch with myself and with my higher power. Identify negative thoughts and behaviors. What should we do with negative thoughts and behaviors? Get rid of them, right? We shouldn't be walking around with negative thoughts. If I'm thinking negative about myself, what do I do? Get quiet in here, huh? What do I do if I'm thinking negative about myself?
Change it.
Say it again?
Change it.
Change that thought? Yeah, that's a good idea. How do you do it?
Put your mind on something positive.
Put your mind on something positive. Start thinking about positive things. What else? We talked about it a whole lot yesterday. What else do we do? Meditate. We can meditate on some positive things that's going on in our lives. And we're supposed to be using something specific. What?
Coping skills.
Coping skills? Okay. Yeah. We are supposed to be using some good positive coping skills, but one of the positive coping skills is positive self-talk. We're supposed to be talking ourselves up. We're supposed to be building our self-esteem and building our thoughts about ourselves in a positive way. We're supposed to be talking positively about ourselves. And again, I have had people tell me that I'm not going to lie about it. This is who I really am. I'm not going to lie about it. We're not lying. This is our goal for ourselves. If I want to be a better husband, if I want to be a better parent, if I want to be a better man or woman, then I need to be saying that about myself. I am a good whatever. I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband. I'm a good counselor. I'm a good teacher. I'm a good all of these things. And there are people who are always going to disagree with you. Does that matter? No, that's their opinion, and that's fine. They have the right to have that opinion, and they can think very lowly of you, but you're supposed to be speaking highly of yourself. The world, the rest of the people, your family, your friends, all of those people, they don't need your help to talk down about you. They're really pretty good at that already. So they don't need you to help them do it. So you need to be you going in the other direction for yourself. You need to be speaking highly of yourself. So once you do that, take a few minutes every day to write down your experiences and use those to get you more in contact with your higher power. It's going to help you do a few things, and one of the things it's going to do is help you make more sense of difficult situations. When you write it down, look, you can't write down anything. You can't write down a bad situation. You know, here's the deal. I have 3 DWIs. And I haven't, look, they're still pending. All of that stuff's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm writing that down, and that gets you focused on what do I need to do at this point. What do you need to do if you got 3 DWIs and the police hadn't come for you yet?
Check to see if you got a warrant.
Check, see if you've got a warrant out. You know what's going on. You're going to have to do something about that. Myself personally, when I write that out, I know there's some things in my life I need to get. I need to talk to my family, let them know I've just had my 3rd DWI. What can happen to you if you have your 3rd DWI?
So,
You can go to prison. You can go to state jail for 2 years. And you may be gone for 2. You may not be. Now I've seen people with more than that not go to. It's up to the judge. But you might go. So I need to talk to my family. I need to let them know that hey, there's this possibility. I'm about to take a 2-year vacation. I'm about to go away. Who else am I going to talk to?
attorney.
Who?
An attorney.
Oh yeah, I might want to go talk to an attorney and get me a good shyster to help me get out of it. If I can get out of it, I don't want to go because I'm not drinking anymore, and I'm never going to drink anymore, so I don't want to go. I'm also going to be talking to my higher power because I'm going to tell you whether you're a really tough person and you're really mean and all of that. Prison's not a fun place to be. It's not. I was out there for a long time. It's not a fun place to be. So you got to make sense of those difficult experiences, and when you write them out, it helps you to make sense of those things. It also helps to manage anxiety in your life. If you're about to go to prison or if you're about to go to the hospital, I have a guy that's in our church. He's 85, and a couple of weeks ago, he went in for some heart surgery. You think he was a little anxious? So what did he do? He didn't write it out, but he came to his Sunday school class and asked for prayer and talked to the guys in the Sunday school class, explained to them everything that was going on, explained to them also that, he's 85 years old and they're about to do some cutting on him, so he don't know if he's going to come back or not, to Sunday school. So, but he did. He made it back. He was there last week, and it was, it didn't bother him at all. Well, it bothered him, I'm sure, but he was fine. So, this helps you to cope with mental illness like depression, all of those kinds of things, reduces stress, prioritizes problems, fears, and concerns. It helps us to identify negative thoughts and behaviors, and it helps us to understand ourselves a little bit better. So, that's a way. Those are some ways that we can get connected to our higher power. And look, here's the deal. If you have a higher power, you need to be connected to your higher power. Spirituality is a must in our recovery. If we're going to get off drugs and alcohol and we're going to stay sober and we're going to stay clean and we're going to be who we're supposed to be for the rest of our lives, being in contact with a higher power is an absolute must. We have to do it. We've talked a lot about not being able to do this by ourselves, right? And when we say that, we mean this group here. We need to be at a place where we have a group here. We need to have a sponsor. We need to have an AA, NA group, some kind of group out there. We need to have sober support people. We need to have all sorts of other people that are supporting us in our efforts to stay sober. We also need to have a higher power that's going to support us as well. So here's how you including spirituality in our recovery. The causes for our addiction are complex. There's a whole bunch of them. They're just multifaceted. As much as people who experience it, people develop substance use disorder for different reasons. But addiction often stems from a place of emptiness, dissatisfaction, or trauma. Drugs and alcohol provide an escape from life's hardships and allow those struggling to forget their problems, find temporary solace, but there's no true satisfaction. So, we all use drugs for different reasons. I told you I started using alcohol when I was 8 years old because my dad was an alcoholic. We had a car wreck, and Mom went to the hospital for a year. And Dad didn't have any idea how to deal with kids, so he just started giving us moonshine and cigarettes. So we both started smoking and we both started drinking. I didn't smoke very long when I was a kid. I quit, but I started back when I was like 18. But my little brother kept smoking. He got into the cigarettes pretty good. He stayed smoking. So different people get addicted differently, for different reasons. But it's all the same. Once we get there, we're all in the same mess. So we have to include spirituality in our recovery if we want to do that. Recovery is an opportunity for people to re-examine their beliefs and live life in a new, more meaningful way. Now, I need to figure out what it is that I really believe. And I need to figure out whether or not a higher power is going to help me. Is a higher power even real? If there is a God, where is it? If there's a higher power, why did all this stuff happen to me? All these things are valid questions. And they come up. And we need to answer them for ourselves. I've answered them for myself. And you need to answer them for yourself. If there's a higher power, I want to be connected to that higher power. Because I do know that I can't do this by myself. The search for meaning, greater purpose, essentially a spiritual journey, though people can choose to describe it in different terms. By participating in spiritual activities throughout this formative time, individuals in recovery can build a solid foundation of meaning to fall back on in difficult times. Now, here's the deal. The most common example of structured spirituality in recovery is what? Think about it. The most common examples of structured spirituality in recovery is what? Religion. That's a lot of it. Absolutely. But it's the 12 steps. Are we going to AA groups or NA groups? We're going to self-help groups, right? We have self-help groups. I don't know. I think y'all go outside, right? We go outside for self-help groups. We used to have a lot of self-help groups coming inside. There's some things in your 12-step group that is helping you to get to that place where you have a connection with your higher power. There are 12-step groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. They are outlined by step-by-step process of spiritual transformation. And a lot of people they don't really realize that the AA program is a spiritual program. It's not a religious program, but it is a spiritual program. And we talked about the differences between religion and spirituality yesterday. Religion has a lot of rules, regulations, and all of these kinds of things that usually men have put in place to kind of get you away from the spirituality and put you into some religion stuff. Well, look, there's some spirituality in that as well, but spirituality in its pure sense is not like that at all. They do have some similarities, but in the spirituality part of it, we're looking more into ourselves and we're just being spiritually connected with a higher power. So AA, the 12 steps of AA and NA and Celebrate Recovery and all of those things are spiritual in nature. What's the difference in Celebrate Recovery and AA?
Celebrate Recovery is faith-based.
It is. Celebrate Recovery is a faith-based situation. And in that, there's only one higher power. In AA or NA, you get to choose your own higher power. In Celebrate Recovery, your higher power is chosen for you. The Lord Jesus Christ. He's the higher power in Celebrate Recovery. So here's the deal. This is the 12 steps. And we're going to go over them. I know everybody here knows them by heart. So we're going to ease through them to look at the spiritual part in all of these. It says, look, admitting my powerless over drugs and alcohol. How is that spiritual in nature?
You're giving your power to, returning that over to the higher power.
Yeah. I admitted that I didn't have the power to do it. I have to admit that I am powerless over alcohol and drugs. I don't have any power over that. So someone else has to have the power. I need to come to a place where I am powerless, right? They didn't give us all of that because the rest of that is what? Came to a place where I admitted I was powerless over alcohol and drugs, and my life had become unmanageable. So if my life is unmanageable, what does that tell me?
Excuse me, Mr. Warner.
Yeah, he don't need group. He don't need group. He don't need any group. So, I don't know why. I think she's going down the hallway that way. So, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. We can't do it by ourselves. When we get to the place where we know that we cannot do it by ourselves, what does that tell us?
Outside help.
We need outside help. Yeah, that's a real good way to say that. We need outside help. We need somebody else to help us do it. And a lot of the time, look, it's not going to just be another human being, although your sponsor, your family, all kinds of people can help you do it. But we're going to have to get further or farther outside than that. We're going to have to go to our higher power for help because he has the power. And he can help us manage our life. Number 2 says, believing that a power greater than yourself can help you recover. So I need to get to the place, I need to get to the place at some point where I understand that a power greater than myself is going to help me to recover. What is the, excuse me, I'm sorry. What is the big deal in there? What is the main focus of number 2?
Greater than myself.
Say it again.
Greater than myself.
I need to believe it. Yeah, it says, look, believing that a power greater than myself can help me recover. Believing that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. Believing that a power greater than myself, first off, actually, factually exists. There is a God, and I need his help. But I'll tell you what, when I tried this on my own, I didn't make it. So I got with a group, and wasn't too long, I figured out that, hey, you know what, I could make it with the help of this group. And it didn't work too well. But then I got with the group, and I got with God, and I was able to get through it. That's all right. You just interrupted any more than anybody else, so you know, fine, you do good work, thank you. So believing, that is paramount in there. We've got to get to the place where we actually believe that a power greater than ourselves can help us recover. If I don't believe it, it's not going to help, right? If I don't believe it, it's not going to work. So I need to get to the place where I believe it. And then step 3 says this: making the decision to put your life in the hands of this greater power. So I have to get down to the place where I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to be spiritual about this thing. I'm going to connect spiritually with my higher power. This is why it makes it kind of tough to have the doorknob. You know, because if you connect with the doorknob, okay, maybe you can connect with it. I've never been really able to connect well with a doorknob. Kind of been scared of connecting with a group of people because sometimes that doesn't help because it says I'm going to put my life in the hands. I'm going to put my decisions and my life, I'm going to turn that over to my higher power. And if you're my higher power, God only knows what you would do. So, verse 4 says, look, taking a honest, fearless, moral inventory of ourselves. That's spiritual in nature, isn't it? How many people have done that step? How many people have done step 4? If you sit down and take a real moral inventory of yourself, how do you fare? How do you come out? I've done that, and I've come out lacking. You come out better? I came out miserable. I came out hard. I came out terrible. I came out understanding that I ain't all that in a bag of chips. You know, I came out understanding, look, I'm a liar. I'm a cheat. I'm all these other kinds of things. You know, I mean, there's some. Now, that did give me, what it gave me was a whole bunch of good stuff to work on. You know, if you don't have anything to work on, that moral inventory ought to help you do this. What do you do with that moral inventory once you complete it? Well, it'll tell us in step 5, going on down, it'll tell us what to do with it. But I'll tell you this, that if you take a moral inventory, is that the end of your moral inventorying?
No.
No. How often do you take a moral inventory? Daily is a good plan. Daily is a good plan. You know, if you don't do it daily, you ought to do it very often anyway. I take a moral inventory a lot. A lot, because I have to continue to stay on top of how I'm doing, and a lot of those things that I have moral issues with, only God can deal with. Step 5 says, admitting the wrong we've committed to your higher power, yourself, and to another human being. So we need to be what? Having a lot of prayer time. We need to be talking to God. We need to let Him know all the stuff that we've done in our lives. We need to take this stuff to God. We also need to be willing to tell somebody else. First, before you tell somebody else, who else do you need to admit it to? Ourselves. You need to admit it to yourself. A lot of times, do you lie to yourself? Oh yeah, I lie to myself all the time. Here's the big deal about lying to yourself. I don't know about you, but when I lie to myself, I usually believe myself. Look, I'm good at lying. I'm a good liar, and I'm pretty gullible, so when I lie to myself, I'll believe myself. So I got to get myself to the place where I'm telling myself the truth and admitting those moral failings to myself. Then I need to tell them to God, look, He's a really good listener. He will always listen to me. And then I've got to have somebody that I tell them to. Who can you tell them to? You can tell them to your pastor. We don't really like it, but you can. I've had so many people come into my office and said, I need to tell you something. Okay. And then they tell me some nasty stuff. Yes, sir? To your loved one. You can. Tell them to the people who love you. And make sure that when you tell your loved one that it ain't going to make them not love you anymore. Right? Right?
Right.
And make sure that the loved one that you're telling it to is not somebody who's still using.
Not be your best.
Yeah, it would be. So, we're going to admit these wrongs to another human being. We're going to admit them to God, to ourselves, another human being. And then in 6, it says, allowing yourself to be ready for your higher power to remove the wrongs you admitted to. Here, what does that tell us? Look, these things are deeply seated habits, deeply seated traits that are in me. This is who I am. Who I see in the mirror is who I present to the world. But all of these nasty, ugly traits and stuff, that's who I am. And most of the time, I can't remove them myself. I can't get rid of them. I can't work hard enough, play hard enough, drink hard enough. I can't get rid of them myself. So I have to believe that there's a higher power that has the power and the authority to get rid of them for me. So it's really good. Unfortunately, a lot of us have what's called bungee cord religion. We'll take all of these sins, all of these horrible traits, all of this nasty failing, and we'll put them at the foot of the cross of Jesus. Then before we walk back to our seat, that bungee cord will suck them right back to us, and we never really actually give them up. We need to turn them over to God and leave them there. Lay them at the foot of the cross, take them to your doorknob, take them to Buddha, whoever you, and leave them with them. Right? But it said, look, in step 7, it says, humbly asking your higher power to remove your shortcomings. That's really fabulous. That's fantastic. Because this tells us all that we do have a higher power. And if we ask, He cares enough to remove these shortcomings from you. What does that tell you? That's fabulous. That doesn't tell you to help you live the rest of your life with these shortcomings. It says remove them from you. God is capable and able and willing to just take them out of your life. That's a fabulous. Then look, I'm making a list of all of the people that you have harmed and become willing to make amends to them. Is that easy? Oh yeah, that step 8's really easy. That's easy for me. It was really easy for me. I harmed a lot of people. Who's the first person I harmed? Me. Yeah, I harmed me. I harmed my wife. I harmed my children. I harmed my employer. I harmed my co-worker. Making a list was easy. There's all these people that we harmed. And so it was easy to make that list. And then it was pretty easy for me to get to the place where I was willing to make amends to those people. What's making amends mean?
Apologize.
Say it again?
Apologize.
Well, apologizing, going and apologizing and doing all of that stuff. But I think making amends goes a little bit farther. Doesn't it?
Try to make it right.
Try to make it right. Try to make whatever it was right. If I stole your car and I completely destroyed your car and now you don't have a car and I'm making amends, what should I do?
Replace the vehicle.
Do what?
Replace the vehicle.
Replace the vehicle? Oh, goodness.
Give
What
him
a
some-
radical thought.
Try to give him some money to help fix it.
Get somebody to help fix that piece of junk that you done tore up.
Give him some money to help fix it.
Give them the money so they can go get it fixed. Give them your car. Something. Making amends. That's made them. Just to go over there and say, hey, I'm really sorry I tore your car up, man. That's not helped anybody. Making amends, I think, it's a little bit farther than that. Step 8 is pretty good, pretty easy. We wrote them all out, and then I really, in my heart, I said, I'm ready to make amends to those people. I'm really willing to make amends to everybody I've done some nasty dirt and horrible stuff to. The first guy I talked to was really receptive, really took that in and was really okay, and that was God, because I felt like I had been really nasty to God. So I would make amends to him. Okay. The second guy was also really receptive, loved it, because the second guy was me. So, I went and apologized to myself, and I looked around and I said, hey, you messed this up in your life, you messed that up in your life, you messed that up in your life, you need to fix all of those things, and I agreed with myself, right? So that part of it was pretty easy, but then number 9 kind of kicked me in the buttocks, right? Number 9 said, making amends with the people mentioned in the previous step whenever possible. And if you read it in the big book, it says, and when it wouldn't cause them any undue harm. We don't want to go and apologize to somebody and try to make amends to them. That's going to cause them undue harm, right? And that's a spiritual thing, a spiritual concept. I want to make amends to help you. I don't want to make amends to hurt you. So, but making amends was not all that easy. Making a list, that's pretty easy. But making the amends itself, going to somebody and saying, hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was able to do that with the one that I thought I'd hurt the most. I went to my wife, and it was hard. But I spoke to her and made amends, apologized, and talked to her about all of that. But there was so much stuff that we had lost because of that I think we may have gotten some of it back, but I don't know that we ever got all of it back. So I was not able to make complete restitution in her life, but she received it. So making amends to some of those people were not, and I like where it says, though, it says whenever that's possible. How do you make amends to someone that you've done some horrible, terrible stuff to that's died? How do you make amends to somebody that you've done some horrible, terrible stuff to that's moved away? Go ahead, Mr. Al.
I know some things I did to some of my loved ones and they passed away.
How did you make amends to them?
Pray about it.
You pray about it? You can do that. You can pray about it. You can think about those folks. One of the ways that I share with people is write them a letter. Write those people a letter. Make amends to them in that letter. Apologize. Tell them everything that you did. And then you can what? Throw the letter away, shred the letter, burn the letter, whatever it is. Put it in a balloon if you want to do that. You put it in a balloon, feed it to a cow. Whatever works, and that can help you get to the place where you feel like in your own mind that you have made amends to them. Right? And so that's what it's about at that point. You can't possibly go dig them up, resurrect them from the dead, and then say, hey, I'm sorry. Can't do that. But in your own heart and in your own mind, you can do something. So then 10 says, look, continue to take that personal inventory and be willing to admit when you're wrong. Did it take some spiritual connection to do that? It does. I'm going to be taking that moral inventory going forward. And when I see that I am wrong, what am I going to do? I'm going to admit that, apologize. I'm going to go tell somebody, look, I did this and I was wrong. And I apologize. And I'm not going to tell you it's never going to happen again, but I'm going to work toward not letting it happen. Right? So, and here's a good one. Improving your contact with your higher power through prayer, meditation, and other spiritual practices. So we need to continually stay in contact with our higher power. Because when we got into recovery, how long did we intend for that to last?
For a lifetime.
For your lifetime? For the rest of your lifetime? The whole rest of the time that you're okay. So if this is going to stay in place for the rest of my life, then I'm going to have to stay in contact with my higher power for the rest of my life. Right? So, one last thing and then we'll be done. Passing the lessons you've learned through the 12 steps on to other people struggling with substance use disorder and continuing to incorporate your new values into all you do. Once we've got this thing in place, once we have a higher power, and once we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing in our lives, then we're supposed to continue to do what we're doing, but we're not supposed to keep it hidden. We're supposed to share it with other people. Correct? Okay, so that tells us that the 12 steps are all spiritual in nature. It also tells us that we need to have a higher power if we're going to remain in our recovery. For a lot of people, the higher power central to the 12 steps is God. Just for me. For others, it's something not grounded in religion. It could be nature, humanity, whatever works to get you out of your addiction and into some recovery. That's what that's all about. It's getting you into recovery. All right, questions, comments, or snide remarks? None? No? Well, thank you, sir.
When you were making your amends, were most people receptive?
Yeah. Yeah, he asked it when I was making my amends, were most people receptive? Yeah, and I think most of it was because of two things. First off, a lot of the people that I had to make amends to were family members, and I went and made amends to those people. I will tell you this, that I didn't go back to make amends to some of those people for 20 years. It wasn't like I got sobered and I went and made amends to them. There were people, like I've told y'all a few times, I left Mississippi, came to Texas. I did a geographical escape to get away from those people. They were still using it. But after about 20 years, my wife and I went back to Mississippi to introduce her to the family because she'd never met them. And while I was in that process, I made amends to my sister, amends to some other folks that I need. So a lot of them were family members, and that made it kind of easy. Some of those people, like I shared with you earlier, had passed away. And so that's fairly easy as well because they're not there. But another one that I had to make amends to with my employer. And I went and talked to him, and he was perfectly okay. But it wasn't a good thing because he was also an alcoholic, and he was in his addiction and all of that kind of stuff when I was in my addiction. So for me to go to him and say, hey, look, I want to apologize to you because you put me on night shift. And I was on night shift for 7 months, and I was drunk from the first night to the last night. I didn't do much of anything, and he said, well, I understand, he never had an issue, but he received that pretty well. So, yeah, well, here's the deal. I think that it is worth it to go do it, whether they receive it well or not. Because a lot, whose recovery are we working toward? Ours. So it may help them, and I want me making amends to them to help them. I want that to be good for them. But it's more about me than it is about them, because I'm the one making amends. I appreciate y'all, and thank you. North Point, get my sign-in sheets and put them in the thing out there.